Welcome to Conversations with Nico. We are live with Dinesh Shamdasani, the CEO and Chief Creative Officer of Bad Idea Comics. Dinesh, how are you, my friend?
That was a hell of an intro. Good, man. Co-CEO.
Co-CEO. Happy birthday.
I share the heavy. Thank you, man. I share the heavy burden.
Warren
Simons.
Oh, wow. I really am honored to share your birthday with you. I appreciate your time. It's a big deal for our channel and a big deal for people in the community. A lot of people talking about Bad Idea.
Yeah.
No surprise to you. And I kind of want to give those who are not familiar with Bad Idea Comics a brief introduction. Can you tell us about Bad Idea, the inception?
Sure. So we're a very strange publisher. We are only in select stores, about 154 stores, about 200 locations. That's about, depending on how you count, 5 to 10% of just the North American comic book store market. We only do 2 books a month, try and keep the quality really high, which means we want to put a lot of effort into each book, which means less books. We don't do a lot of the things that a lot of publishers tend to do, which are things like variant covers, no variants, no collections, so no trade paperbacks, no hardcovers. We don't do any digital, so no Comixology or any digital comics. Everything that we do is comic books in comic book shops. That's kind of the simplicity of Bad Idea. And from there, we've tried to build a lot of things that we feel will help at least our books be better books. Things like the not first printing, which is essentially instead of doing a second, third, fourth, fifth printing, every time we print a new batch, we just call it not first printing and we don't differentiate it. And that hopefully helps people find the book and find a copy for them to read.
What was the goal? How did this idea, this Bad Idea, how was it conceived?
It's very selfish, frankly. And I think that it'll surprise people. But the truth is, it's just a bunch of people that liked working together. We all worked, almost every single person at Bad Idea worked together at a company called Valiant. We had a blast, and there was an acquisition, a bit of a hostile one, of Valiant, and we all just wanted to keep making comics together. And so selfishly, we just wanted to, kind of hang out and make comics with our friends. And in deciding to build a new company, we thought, well, we're not bound by the company that existed before us. What would we do if we started from scratch to make better comic books? What are the things that we would try and do? And so a lot of what we're doing here are our attempt or our perception of what will allow us to put more into the actual stories themselves.
So, is that the goal, to build a better comic? Because, for some publishers, I think they would say the goal is to sell comics. For others, they would say maybe profit. Some people may perhaps disingenuously suggest that they're just doing it for collectors.
Sure. No, I think that's what's confusing to some people about what we do. We're not trying to build, I would say almost every single publisher, certainly every publisher you've ever heard of since Marvel has tried to be, including Valiant when I was running it, has tried to be baby Marvel, tried to be Marvel 2.0. We are all chased this idea of having this huge universe of characters with, now a cinematic universe, licenses, etc. And for us, we did that. We chased that. We kind of tick those boxes. We feel like we accomplished what we wanted to in that realm. We're very lucky at Valiant. Set a lot of sales records. We're the best publisher in the business. Won a lot of awards. So now it's a different goal. Now the goal is, if there's a profit goal, it's so that we can keep doing this. If there is a goal for increasing market share or increasing the number of copies we're selling, it's because we like the story. But it's not the paramount important to us. What's most important to us is that we build comics that we're very excited about, and we build them in a way that we think is, maybe the word is, authentic to comics.
Now, I heard a little rumor that when COVID broke out, you, out of the kindness of your heart, cut checks to retailers. Any truth to that?
Yeah, we did that. We were meant to launch in April of last year, April 2020. And thank goodness it was April, not March, because, of course, everything shut down at the end of March. I had a movie actually coming out. I had Bloodshot feature film coming to
Yeah,
theaters.
congratulations. It was great, incidentally.
Oh, thanks, man.
And I'd like to talk about that maybe on a separate show, but
Sure.
It was exceptional.
But that gave me a front row seat to what was coming for entertainment in terms of the pandemic. And we were able to kind of take the research that Sony had spent a lot of money doing and utilize that a bad idea and say, look, we have to push, not just push a few weeks or a few months, but this is going to be perhaps as long as a year. It looks like it's going to be longer, frankly. And we pushed to March of 2021, which at the time people said that's too aggressive. But we had information from, this big conglomerate Sony that was dealing with all their giant $100 million movies. So we knew a little bit more about what it looked like. No one knew for sure. What we did, the first thing we did then was we took our marketing budget for 2020, which we weren't using anymore. We knew that all the stores that would partner with us were going to be struggling because people couldn't go into the stores, etc. And we cut checks. What little we could do, we cut checks. We divided that number equally among the stores and we send them cash, saying, hey, we're sorry we don't have the books for you this year, but hopefully this helps you, in any way that you can. And that was just something that we did.
Just to be clear, you legitimately, out of your own pocket, gave money to retailers that were committed to Bad Idea?
Yes, which is, you put it that way, it sounds far-fetched, but the truth is that's part of, when I say we want to make comics in a way that we're excited about, comics that we would want to read, and in a way that's authentic to comic books, the business, the medium, that's part of it. Part of it is if we have less stores, we can, it's like the Jerry Maguire thing, we can treat them a different way. If I have to manage 10,000 stores globally, 2,000 stores in North America, I can't give them the same utilities. I can't give them the same resources. I can't cut checks for that many stores. But if it's 200 locations, 154 stores, I can cut checks. I can send them point of purchase displays. We can have our head of sales literally contact every single store. When we allocated ENIAC, that's one of the things that we did, almost every store. So we can treat them differently because we can touch. It's a higher touch proposition.
Yeah. So you said the word allocation, right? Like, so in spite of the retailer relief, there's a lot of controversy around Bad Idea. A lot of high-profile voices in the retail community up in arms. One, for example, that immediately springs to mind is the guy who invented Free Comic Book Day. I think has been pretty vocal.
Oh, Joe Field.
He's been vocal about this. Talk to me about that. What's the deal with the retailer animosity around the allocations? How did it happen? Why did you have to allocate the first prints?
Well, there isn't really animosity. That's the thing that I think people are misunderstanding. Is you see this, what it is partly its success, and it's new to us as well. We never had this level of it at Valiant. We have in one issue done more than we ever managed to do at Valiant, and there's a lot of reasons for that. I can speculate on those reasons, but I don't know. I'll probably bore everyone watching right now. I was texting with some of my former partners at Valiant, the ones that aren't there anymore but aren't with us at Bad Idea, about just our reorder numbers, not first print reorders numbers, on the Wednesday of ENIAC's release. And they thought I had an order of magnitude wrong. They were like, that can't be possible. We never approached anything near that at Valiant. It's interesting what's happened. You see this kind of discourse with the retailers, with Marvel, with DC, with the absolute biggest Image books. And I think what's happening here is they're engaging, and what we're doing is we're unwittingly spurring a conversation between the two big types of retailers, right? There's there's a generational divide in stores. You've got to think about it this way. You've got the older stores that were built maybe when the direct market started, and they were built for a certain kind of thing, selling comic books. They were not a Batman family of books back then, a Spider-Man family of books back then. People would come in, they'd pick Batman or Spider-Man off the shelf, they'd buy it. Those stores built their customer base a single certain way. It's not as much hand selling. Now, the ones that are people like Joe Field, very good hand sellers. It's not that they can't do it, it's their customer base is used to that. Also, Joe probably has a backlog of some silver and golden age keys, and that's helpful to his business. It gives him a foundation. You look at the newer stores that are 10, 20 years old, they're much more diverse. They are Pokemon, they are Yu-Gi-Oh!, they are non-sports cards, they're comic books, trade paperbacks. They've had to be diverse because they don't have the backlog of silver and bronze and golden age keys. They also have a different kind of customer base. Their customer base probably is more interested in variants, in store exclusive things like that. And so I think what Bad Idea has done is by taking a very specific stance on how comics are distributed, we are starting that discussion. Joe had a tremendous Wednesday with ENIAC. He sold out. He had a line outside of his store. He's been very vocal on Twitter supporting us. At the same time, yeah, he has some concerns about how we're doing business. Everybody does, because there's no roadmap here. No one knows where this leads. We had no idea the book would do what it did. That's partly, again, why the allocation came into account. If you'd asked me before the book went to order or before the launch, would you outsell with 5% of the stores that you had at Valiant? Would you outsell what you were selling at Valiant? I mean, never in a million years. I was optimistic. I thought maybe best case we'll get 80% of our sales from 20% of the stores. I never thought we'd do better.
Yeah, so can you talk about those numbers? Or are they closely held, or is that something that you've disclosed publicly? The number of allocations, the number of books, the number of
I can talk about some
prints that were sold.
Yeah, we haven't talked specifics, but I can talk about some of the pieces. So we did a 51% allocation. That meant that stores, whatever they ordered of ENIAC number 1, they got 51% of that in first prints, and we offered 49% to make up the difference in not first printings. And maybe 1 or 2 stores, we had maybe 5 or 6 stores that said, you know what, we don't need the not first printings. And then almost every single one of them, I think maybe every single one of them within the first week said, actually, I want those, and can we get more? Because I think what they'd assumed is, again, it's a new company. No one knows our characters. No one knows this company. They haven't fallen in love with the stories yet. Hopefully they will. Anyone would tell you, you're going to have a certain number. You're going to have a top end of sales. What's happened is something larger than that. And I think it's partly because, perhaps, I'm guessing here, there is a curiosity about us because we're not following the mold. Perhaps pandemic has made it helpful for us because we're very vibrant, and we're very aggressive, and we're very energetic at a time when people are kind of holding their breath waiting. I think the cover to ENIAC number 1 that Louis LaRosa and Laura Martin put together is phenomenal. I think that really helps. I think there's a bit of a club. I'm seeing a lot of posts on social media with our logo, which we didn't send out. People just took it. They have started posting it like it was some kind of ideology, saying, if you know, you know. I thought that was fascinating. It's become a rallying cry.
Do you feel like you made any mistakes with the rollout of Bad Idea? I mean, I must confess to not being entirely familiar with the finer details. I do remember reading that the reason for the allocations was not because you were trying to do X, Y, or Z, but you'd indicated that you basically sent numbers to the printer. Yeah. And then you got orders in, and they were twice what you had sent to the printer. I mean, I'm not putting words in your mouth, right?
It's even stupider, honestly. Look, when you ask, are there any mistakes? There's so many mistakes. Publishing is such a fast business. You're making mistakes all the time, and the trick is to try and not make the mistakes that are big. Try to make the small ones, and sometimes you run into trouble. What happened with ENIAC number 1 is very different than what happens in most publishers. One of the things that's unique to Bad Idea is we self-distribute. What that means is we don't go through Diamond. The reason we don't go through Diamond is because we don't want to put Diamond in a situation where they're having to distribute to only select stores, right? Diamond distributes to every store that's a Diamond account. We don't want to put them in that position. And 2, it allows us to do things that Diamond is not built to do. It allows us to get into the weeds now. It allows us to do things like give different net terms to stores, slightly better discount rates, put books in stores on a different day than Diamond usually ships, different things like that. So we can have a little more flexibility, things that we wanted to do knowing we were a smaller publisher without characters that we don't have Batman and Wolverine. What levers can we pull, having been in the business for a couple of decades, knowing the intrinsic nature of it that maybe will excite retailers. So because we're self-distributing, we have to put our orders together well ahead of our print, we have to print the book, well ahead of our orders coming in. Diamond, I don't know if a lot of people know this, Diamond gets all the books from publishers, collates them, puts them in boxes, ships them out, gets them into stores. It's a 2, maybe 3-day process. We're more like a Kickstarter. Think about the Kickstarters, how long does it take for those things to get put together, or even anyone that's mailed more than 5 packages at once? I mean, that's a colossal pain in the ass, and that's kind of what we're looking at. We're also not a giant shop. At Valiant, I had 50-something employees. Here, there's a 5-person team. It's very small. Wow. It's small by design because, again, we're just trying to have fun, and we're trying to keep our overhead very low so that we can do these crazy things and put all the money towards the books. So what ended up happening on ENIAC is we took our best guess. I'll ask you the question that we asked ourselves. If, let's just use round numbers, if there's 1,000 stores in North America and they ordered 10 copies each and it's 10,000 copies total, and you said to them, okay, we're going to not do 1,000 stores, we're going to do 200 stores. Do they order 2,000 copies? Do they order less? Do they order more because they're making up for the 8,000 stores that aren't there? So the question is practically impossible to answer. We did our best guess of what each store would order. We took the highest end projection that we could. We printed those numbers. We got our orders in. They were higher. We sent an email out to the stores saying, hey, does anyone feel like they ordered too much? Anyone do us a favor and reduce their orders? Not expecting anyone to do that. A number of stores actually were very kind and said, yeah, we can help you out. That's what we can do. Numbers kept going up though in terms of orders. Wasn't enough. We had to do a first printing that was 51% allocated. That's something that we're trying very hard not to do again. We've set our numbers for Tankers 1, our next book, very, very, very aggressively. If you talk to any other publisher and we told them the percentage increases based on our orders, they would laugh. We're insane, but we don't want to get in this situation again, because what we're trying to do is get the books into the hands of readers. We don't build a company that's going to be around for years if we have one book that spikes and then goes away in 6 weeks. That won't help anybody.
I put in my order. It's at a shop about an hour and 10, 15 minutes, hour and 20 minutes, maybe, I don't know, from where I live. And my question is, will there be a first print that they hand me, or will it be a not first print? I haven't called.
So I would guess 99% likelihood you have a first print waiting for you. Here's why. One of the things that we're able to do is we're able to have Adam Freeman, our head of sales, contact almost every single store. So when we did the allocation, he spent 24/7 calling stores, emailing stores, texting stores, slipping into their DMs, whatever he could do to get in touch with them, saying, what do your pre-orders look like? How can we help you? How can we make sure that at least the people that for a year have pre-ordered and waited for this book can get a first print? With 99% accuracy, we were able to do that. There are a couple stores that we weren't able to fully satisfy. Now, my hope is that amongst those pull lists,
were any of those in the Pittsburgh area? No, I'm just kidding.
No, they were not. They were not. We had the most trouble actually with our international stores, unfortunately. That's partly also to do with the shipping. So there's some international stores that again had to make some tough choices. And then of course shipping didn't help us. So some of the stores don't even have the books yet. They'll have them this Wednesday.
Wow.
But for the most part, I feel hopeful because whenever you have a pull list, there is a certain percentage of reader that wants the first print for collectability, and there's a certain percentage that doesn't mind. So hopefully those stores that have to make those choices are able to find people that are like, I don't really mind.
How did you determine which stores were approved to sell Bad Idea comics?
This is a wonderful bit of misinformation that I've seen around there. We don't approve them. They just apply. And we say, okay, any store that wants to be a Bad Idea destination store has to apply. By that, I mean, we have this ludicrous non-binding, it even says legally non-binding, what we call a contract. And it has the 6 Bad Idea rules, the rules that have become a little public, like you can't sell the book for more than cover price for 30 days. You, whatever your orders on number 1 are, that's your orders on every subsequent issue in that series. You have to display our posters in a prominent place, things like that. We've got those kinds of rules. So anyone that agrees to those rules, and we make them sign it so that they can really feel it, is a Bad Idea destination store.
Yeah, so there's been a lot of really clever marketing and shtick around Bad Idea. I mean, just some incredible stuff. Started with a button, which I thought was genius. Are we going to keep seeing more of those sorts of like guerrilla marketing ideas? I mean, the hero trade, for example, still has people going crazy.
Yeah,
I got like a half a dozen questions like, so does he have any of the hero trade? Will Nick be doing another giveaway? How can I get a hero trade? Which I thought was hilarious.
I get 5. I can answer the hero trade question. I get 5 comps myself. I've given away 2 so far, so I do have 3 more. One of them I ripped into pieces and then taped with painter's tape back together. And I was going to give it away on Twitter for the launch, and then somehow I've misplaced it. It's driving me crazy. I can't find it, which is a bummer, but I'll find it eventually.
Comic book people understand a missing book. Regular people are like, you did what? And I'm like, yeah, I just don't know where it is, but I'll find it.
But if you do want to give away, I do actually have a first print of ENIAC here that I was just using earlier today to make sure that we have printer samples correct. So if you want, we can give this away.
Yeah, people will go crazy.
It's not really beat up. It's hard to beat this book up because of the sheer printing quality. And we should talk about that actually, because that's part of the allocation. I think it'll help people understand.
Yeah. Let's do this. This is my new favorite way to give away comics. Whichever comment gets the most likes in the on the YouTube thing, regardless of what it is, you win. So good luck. Have at it. We'll give it away on Flipside on Monday. We'll announce who the winner is.
Awesome.
Talk to us about the page quality. Oh, and obviously not the live chat, but the comments. Anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, okay, sure. Let me talk about the which one did you, guerrilla marketing or page quality? Which one do you want to talk about first?
Let's go back to guerrilla marketing and we can parlay it in whatever works best for you.
Sure. So I got to give a shout out to Josh Johns, our director of marketing, and Hunter Gordon, our publisher, who are
He's
two
the
of the
genius.
big brands.
Those are the geniuses.
They're two of the big brands, the geniuses at Bad Idea, who come up with all the cockamamie things that we do. One of the things I like to tell people, because I get it. People get upset. I don't want to find a store that's not near me. I want it in my hands, in the store that I'm used to, or digitally, or just zap it into my brain. I don't have to leave my bed. I'm the same way with a lot of content. They're dropping a lot of films now on streaming services, and I tried to watch Wonder Woman 1984, and it was like 10 minutes to try to sign up for HBO Max, and ultimately I just gave up. I said, you know what? I don't care that much. And I get that people will do that to us, and I have no problem with that. In fact, I like to tell people, if the things that we've done so far with the button and the hero trade are annoying to you, it's only going to get more annoying. It's totally cool. We're not building a company that needs everyone to like us. We're building a company that needs some people to really love us. And so, yeah, you will absolutely see a bunch of crazy stuff. In fact, the one I'm most excited for that's right around the corner is we have invented something no one's ever done in comics before. We've invented it. Didn't think people would believe us. So we've gotten CGC to verify this. We've invented a completely invisible comic book. We built a comic book. Robert Venditti wrote it. Thomas Giorello drew it. We printed it. We turned it invisible. And that's a book that we've got coming up. We're excited about that. I know that sounds crazy, right? It'll make sense.
I believe you. You haven't led me astray yet. So
the staples though are tough. We can't figure out a way to get the staples to be invisible. That's the part. That's the problem.
Okay, fair enough.
But speaking of printing quality, so I can show you. I can actually have a sample right here, so I can show it to you. Generally, I should take a step back. Why would we print like this? Again, you're hearing this a lot. New publisher, people don't know the characters yet. We need to do everything we can to fight the Marvel, DC, Wolverine, Batman pull. The most important thing that you can do to get people to buy a comic book is for them to reach out and grab it, to touch it. Everyone's done that. You go to a store, it's on the shelf, you pick it up, you flip through it, oh, the art looks cool. You make your buying decision almost based on the feel of it. To reach out and to touch it, you need a great cover. So we changed the cover. We solicited a different cover in 2020. And with the extra year, we thought, you know what, let's build another one. Built this one, we like this better. So that cover's on issue 3. This is our issue 1 cover. I think it's great. Then we talked to the printer and we went to town on this thing. This is the best cover money can buy, spared no expense. To get into the weeds of boring printer stuff, the paper quality here is cardstock, not even a regular pound. So generally comic book covers are printed on 60, 70, 80 pound cover stock. This is so you go 80, you go 90, you go to 110, there's no 100 for some reason. Then you go to 8-point cardstock, 10-point cardstock. 10-point cardstock is what the Marvel and DC trades are made with. This is a 12-point cardstock, can't get higher than this. On top of that, we laminated it. If we weren't giving this away, I'll show you what that means, but I don't want to rip it. So we laminated it. So the whole thing is double laminated both sides and a matte, which means that if I tried to rip this cover, it wouldn't rip. There's a thin layer of plastic on the whole cover. It gives it that really nice feel. And then on top of that, if you can see with the light, there's you can see a little bit of it here. There's a spot gloss on it. And we've done the spot gloss on the back as well. It takes a lot of time. That takes 2.5 weeks in terms of drying time. Each of those processes is a completely different machine. Then you got to dry it, do another one, dry it. Especially the laminate, that's the longest. And so with that, it makes it very difficult to very quickly put books into press. Even now, with the ridiculous number of not first printings we just sold this week, we're having to go back to press. I'm going to wait 2.5 weeks. We kicked that off last Friday. The books won't be ready until not this Friday, not next Friday, a little bit after that.
So there's no discernible difference in quality between the first print and the not first print?
Correct. Everything in the first print is in the not first print. The quality is exactly the same. The only two differences are the logo is a black logo on the not first print. I wanted to make it identifiable, so if you knew, you could see it if you were really keen for it, but not something that made it feel like you were getting a less product. And then the inside back cover on the not first printing has a little prose thing for a ridiculous character called Billy Kicks, who's a kind of a psychic motorcycle superhero.
So why not make them just an A and a B cover in light of the difficulty in getting the initial printing out to all of the retailers? I mean, they're essentially the same book.
We didn't want to do a variant cover. That's really what it came down to. We're trying to build a company that doesn't build variants, and we're trying not to, because we're so new, we're trying not to break any of our promises. And so we've had a lot of opportunities to build variants. In fact, after the launch, we've had maybe 25, 30 retailers, stores.
Shocker.
Get in touch with us and say, hey, why don't you do, a gold foil thank you cover for all the stores? And because, everyone no one expected lines outside the stores, people camping out for those ridiculous gold buttons that we built, gold pins. They had a lot of work to do. And so we want to do something to thank them, but we don't want to build a variant because we're trying to be a non-variant company.
So, what I hear from local comic shop owners that, cringe a little bit every time I walk into their store is got to take care of those readers. All I care about are the readers. Don't care about you comic book flippers, you speculators, you whatever, right?
Do you read, Nico?
Yeah, of course I read. I mean, that's just silly. I don't know what any of that shit's about. But the point is, God bless them. Those are the same folks that I think, are now like, but why didn't I get my A and my B cover?
Yes. I don't think there is a collector that doesn't read, man. I don't believe that exists. I think that delineation is kind of a stereotype, a fallacy.
There's some heritage buyers that I don't think read, right? Like they just flip books.
There's people, but I know some of those people, and even they will read certain. They hear enough. I mean, it's hard. It's hard not to. Yeah. If you're flipping the books, it's hard not to.
Yeah, no question about it. So I guess the reason I was so anxious to get you here is because there's so many different opinions on such a new company that, from where I sit, it very much appears to be a labor of love from guys who were desperate to work together and get creative juices flowing in the way that they did recapture the magic that, they felt at a company that they thought was growing. Is that essentially what this thing is all about to you?
Yes, and I would add one other component. I agree with everything you're saying, and I think that's really the core of who we are. And you've got to add to that the fact that we don't want to do the same thing we did. We don't want to repeat ourselves. Even if we were all still at the company we were at before, we would be pushing into new territory, trying to come up with new things to do. At Valiant, we constantly built the pull box cover, the pre-order edition, the plus edition. I'm trying to think of what we did, a bunch of other nutty things like that, constantly trying to refine, because again, we're fighting these giant conglomerates with these ridiculously sized cinematic universes that are giant commercials for their comic books. We don't have any of that. So what can we do? And as a new company, it's fascinatingly baffling how much interest there is in us. But maybe we're a little punk rock. Maybe people just, the name certainly seems to have gotten people excited.
Yeah, no question about it. Let me ask you this. On the subject of the hero trade, are we going to see some of those breadcrumbs appear? Like, what's really going on there? Can I get a hint?
Sure. In terms of the story, in terms of the hero trade story? Yeah, well, absolutely. I don't want to give too much away because I think it's going to be a fun ride, but With the book that we put out last year into stores, pretending it was an amateur book, we introduced the main guy of the story who's driving around with this dead superhero in the trunk, selling pieces of him. But we also introduced that dead superhero in the trunk, Captain Fab. In the new story that we put into the back of ENIAC #1, because we put a new hero trade story in the back of ENIAC 1, we've introduced this new character who is a teeny tiny little guy, and he's imprisoned in a suitcase, and everyone's trying to get the suitcase. What we're trying to do is we're trying to put the pieces on the board in the world of the hero trade to potentially tell a fun story that we may or may not have concocted for down the road. So that's what we're doing a little bit with the hero trade. And so each issue of ENIAC will come with a hero trade backup, or we're calling a B-side. And issue 3 will be a reprint of the one that came out last year, so that anyone that doesn't want to spend, whatever that's going for now, $1,000.
Yeah, who knows?
Pay $3.99 and read it.
Wow.
If I can.
Yeah. So now, for those who aren't familiar with you, you do a little bit of work from time to time in Hollywood. Is that accurate? Yeah. Got your own production company. Mildly successful. I mean, The Witcher, Bloodshot. Had some success. Do you think we may see some of these bad idea properties on the big or small screen here in the next 5 to 10 years?
It's I don't know, possibly. It's not something we're avoiding. It's not something we're chasing either. I can tell you from my own standpoint, there's no desire to chase that stuff with this, because I get to work with, as you say, all these James Gunn, James Wan, etc. on film and TV projects. So I scratch that itch, but it's so ubiquitous, man. You can't have a meeting in Hollywood without everybody having some comic book property they're working on. We've certainly had people knock on the door already about this, and we've said, we're not really interested in talking just yet. But at some point, it could happen. Absolutely.
Yeah, because it's interesting. Like guys like Brian Vaughan went and they do things like Saga, for example. Yeah. He's my perfect example, because he wanted to do in comics what he couldn't do on television, couldn't do in film. And then there's us sicko comic collectors. We're like, so about that Saga movie or TV show, you made any plans to do that yet? And I
don't know, man. He says that, but I cannot go a month. Well, now pandemic, I couldn't go a month in LA without seeing him taking a meeting somewhere. I'd be at a restaurant. I'd be like, it's Brian K Vaughan with Mike DeLuca. It's Brian K Vaughan with the head of Sony. It's Brian K Vaughan with. It's hard. You got to take the meetings, and if it's the right situation, you never know. Someone will have a way in. But we have that same approach. I mean, we're doing a book in July, in summer, about Santa Claus called Sleigh Bells, in which a hunter and his kid accidentally shoot Santa's reindeer. There's an accident with the sleigh. All the reindeer die, and Santa tracks them down in this small town. And then, like Rambo, just kills everybody. SWAT team versus Christmas magic mayhem, murder mayhem. That's a book that no one's going to make that into anything. That's never going to be a TV show, a movie, a cartoon. It's nothing. It's nonsense. A lot of our backups, we've got another one called Hank Howard Pizza Detective, about this guy that works in these like small Domino's type chains. And if, $14 gets missing out of the till, he suddenly interrogates everybody like it's the greatest crime of all time. No one's making that into a TV show or movie. But something like ENIAC, the response has been phenomenal, maybe.
Yeah. Is that the magic of comics? That
I think the magic of comics is, a lot of people, film does character very well. And it tries to build these big worlds. It's very difficult to build big worlds. I think the magic of comics is you kind of just find yourself building big worlds. The sequential narrative, the space, the gap between the panels allows you to build these giant worlds in a way that there's no other medium can. It's just too much work everywhere else because you got to show it. I remember one of my first old Marvel comic books, I can't remember which issue it was. It's been driving me crazy. I'm reading it and they're talking about Thor and Captain America having a fight. And then they say, then they had a fight, and this is the outcome. And I turn the page, and there's no fight. They talk about this fight that had happened, and it just happened off panel. And I remember thinking, like, oh my God, that must have been an amazing fight, Captain America versus Thor. As a kid, I was thinking this. That's a whole movie right there. They'll do a trilogy based on that right there. So comics just as a throwaway. Even ENIAC, and we've got this whole backstory of the creation of ENIAC. we don't have to touch it. I've been seeing people online talk about Area 23 and did they have to build a perimeter and how did that work? And it just kind of happens in a way that it doesn't in other mediums.
Yeah. Can you talk about how you fell in love with comics?
Sure. I have the sad '90s story, man, where my friends were all becoming comic book fans because Superman had died. I was watching movies and I was a big movie guy, and one of them gave me Adventures of Superman 497, which is one of the Doomsday issues where it's the orange cover with Superman flying into Doomsday. And I read this thing and I was like, there's nothing like this in anything that I'm consuming. No video games, no movies, no TV shows, no anime, nothing. There's nothing like this. I got hooked. And then the next thing I knew, there's foil covers everywhere. And they're shiny. And as a kid, you go towards the Venom Lethal Protectors. And then I found myself finding Valiant. And for me, that was very life-changing because it was a universe of characters that was brand new. They felt a little more modern than Marvel and DC, a little edgier, but I didn't have the weight of having continuity that I didn't understand. And so that really became my gateway into comic books. And then from there, you get to Watchmen, because so many of those Valiant characters are based on the archetypes from Watchmen, and from Watchmen you get to everything.
Did you take a break?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all do, right?
Right.
I got into comics, I was probably 12 or 13, took a break, as I think most people do, when they figure out girls. And then got back into it very briefly for about a year when I was 19, and then remembered girls again. And then went to film school here in Los Angeles. And because I grew up in Hong Kong, and moving to America was game changing for me because I could get the books. So the books that you couldn't get in Hong Kong, or I went to law school in London, you couldn't get the books there. And here eBay it's just so easy to find stuff. And nobody cared about Valiant, so I was able to get all my old Valiants, and from there it just went. And I haven't stopped since.
Yeah, is that why one of the reasons why you're trying to provide these books on the international market is the experience that you had trying to buy Valiant books as a young person?
Yeah, I don't. It's nothing altruistic. It's more of I'm aware of that experience. It is very hard, and so we're trying really hard to not say shipping and tariffs are too much. We're not doing it, but really trying to find a way, even if we probably lose money in most of our international stores, but the books are still out there. I think that's important. We're trying not to exclude people because so much of what we're doing is exclusionary by the nature of having to do it to help the business. We're trying not to purposely do exclusionary things.
Now, if you're a brick and mortar retailer and you're watching this live or on replay, is it too late to get in?
No. In fact, actually, we just let a store in yesterday. So we take the rules very seriously. And one of the stores in our first big wave, our launch wave, broke the rules. They were selling the books for like $100 and something, which they're not allowed to do for 30 days. So we had to ban them, which left the spot open. So we have this long list of about 100 stores that have applied that we haven't yet announced them as part of the campaign. And so we took the one that was the oldest and the one top of the list, and we put them in Neighborhood Comics in Georgia. So anyone that wants to be a Bad Idea destination store, as long as you're brick and mortar and agree to the rules, we'll put you on that list, and very quickly we'll hopefully get to you and get you announced and get you part of the program. Just reach out to us on social media, or almost every store knows Adam Freeman, who's our head of sales. Reach out to him or reach out to us on social media.
Yeah. So when do you think those 100 stores can kind of anticipate or being let in? I mean, is it hard to tell, or?
No, it's about the balance is two things. The balance is giving the people that were early and that waited, because just like the people that pre-ordered, there's 154 locations that waited a year. Giving them enough of a window where they feel like they're rewarded for the patience and being early. At the same time, figuring out the order cycle, so we're getting these other people in ordering cycle. What we're thinking about doing now is what we've done is big waves. We initially thought, and this is actually part of, I think, why the books have blown up, we didn't expect there to be that many people caring. We thought we'd make these books, and maybe our friends, that we'd become friends with at stores would support us, and that would be it. We anticipated 25 stores by launch. It became 50, 100, 154, 200 locations, now 100 in the wait list. And so we've done these big waves. Here's 50 stores. Okay, here we've gone bigger. Here's 150 stores. What we're thinking about doing now is we're thinking about 1 or 2 stores every week, adding them. so we can just get them into the system quicker instead of having to process 50, 100 stores, wait several months, put them all in a batch. So that's what we're thinking about there.
Yeah, and how are the books distributed? You indicated that you don't use Diamond. I mean, are you trying to drop ship this stuff through USPS, or you got like, Sideshow Bob in a van? Like, what the hell do you do this?
We do use Diamond, but we're not distributed by Diamond. So here's how it works: we do all of our own solicitation, we do all of our own ordering. We have a custom order website. We do all of our own invoicing, all of our own collections. We were planning on doing all of our own fulfillment as well. And at 25, 50 stores, we probably would have been foolish enough to try it. When we did the hero trade, which was 1 copy per store, 154 locations, it near killed us just to do that book. Because it takes a lot of time. As anyone that's put a lot of packages together, it takes a lot of time, it takes days. So we said, okay, you know what, this is too much. We can't be doing this for monthly books with reorders, etc. So we went and essentially begged Diamond, can we fulfill through you? We don't want the rest of it. We just want to use you for fulfillment. So what we do is we do all of our own orders, everything. We print the book, we get our orders, we do all that work, we invoice, and then we send Diamond the books and we send them, here are the stores and where they go. And they charge us a fee per issue to fulfill. And so what happens is then it's in the packages. So when the stores get their Marvel, Image, etc. books, the Bad Idea books are in there, which means that there's less damages. Also, it's very hard to damage this kind of paper, but it also means it's in the cycle they're used to, so not having to look out for 2 packages, etc.
Now, if you're not familiar with Bad Idea, showed up here for the first time, and you're like, well, this sounds cool. How do you find a Bad Idea comic? How do you find a store? Where do you go?
So it's a great question. Again, we're in select stores. What we've done is several things to help people find stores. The best way to do it, in my opinion, is we've created a website called whereisbadidea.com. If you go to whereisbadidea.com, you can not only find a list of our stores, but you can fill in your information, pick the store that you want, and we will send them your information. If they're interested, they will get in touch with you about pre-ordering the books, but we will send that information for you to them. On top of that, we've got a list of stores with addresses and phone numbers on our website, which is badideacorp.com. And our social media is constantly doing everything it can to highlight the stores. Because again, when you don't have 2,000, 10,000 stores to deal with, you can continually be giving them the spotlight.
Now, I can't call, for example, like Mile High and say, hi, I'd like a Bad Idea comic. Will you send it to me in the mail?
Sure, you can. Yeah, not every store will do that, but I would say the last time I looked, about 60 to 70% of our Bad Idea destination stores were happy to mail order. They all have different rules, in the same way they have different rules for pre-ordering. Some of them may charge a certain type of shipping. Some of them may say, we'll only ship to you after 4 issues. Some of them may say, you got to do 2 titles a month. They all have different rules.
So what are the 6 rules?
The Bad Idea destination store rules?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's not one of them, right? I mean, in other words, if you want one of these books and you don't feel like getting in your car and driving an hour and 20 minutes, you can pick up the phone and start calling these LCSs on the on the destination store locator. Find one that'll send it to you in the mail, right?
Yeah.
They're not prohibited in any way from doing any of that.
No.
The only rules are.
I'm looking them up because I want to get them exactly right.
Okay.
So, sorry, that's why I'm just trying to find them.
I didn't mean to like what's the word, like try to cross it. Tell me the 6 rules. I'm sorry about that.
Very, very happy to. I just want to make sure I get the language right because we went through iteration on language. So here are the 6 rules. Bad Idea rule number 1: Bad Idea comics are limited to 1 per customer. We understand that a lot of what we're doing can be seen as speculative and can get speculators excited. Again, I don't subscribe to the point of view that there's speculators and there's readers. I think that there is, if not all speculators are readers, there's a huge Venn diagram of overlap. I'd say 80% of people that collect also read. So we want to make sure that as many people that want to read the books can at least get a copy. So we try to limit it to 1 per customer. Rule number 2, must be sold for no more than cover price for the first 30 days from street date. So that again doesn't matter what they're selling for on eBay, you've got 30 days, you've got to put them on sale. If you put them on sale, you've got to put them on sale for the cover price. After that, go with God. That again gives you the ability to not have to be lined up the second the store opens to get your copy. You can get there as long as they don't sell out. same day, that weekend, 3 weeks later. Rule number 3.
So hold on, can I ask you a question about that one?
Yeah.
So theoretically, once you get the orders down right, they could stack like a case of them in the back and hold them for 30 days, and thereafter try to mark them up on the secondary market.
There's nothing in our rules against that. They could.
But what you're trying to do is, and again, don't let me put words in your mouth, prevent people from, kind of preying on the public by jacking up prices there for that first month, creating a moratorium, right?
Exactly. Look, if a store wants to take the risk, if a store wants to spend the money that they have to pay us plus shipping to get the books, put them in the back, hope that people are still interested in these books, hope that the price is maintained 30 days later, they can certainly do that. Again, this is something no one's done before. I'm very curious to see what happens. From what I'm hearing from the stores that I'm talking to, and again, we don't have that many stores, so I'm able to talk to the vast majority of them. They're not doing that. They, like us, were caught off guard. And it's actually been kind of wonderful because there was a whole period in which they were like, how could you not know how much interest there would be from us? And I get to say now, well, how could you not know how much interest there's going to be from your consumer base? Everyone in every part of this cycle has found that there's more excitement here than anticipated. But yeah, I suppose they could do that, and perhaps down the road they'll do that.
Number 3.
All right, let's go back to this. Bad day rule number 3. Bad Day comics can be offered for pre-order, but can't be shipped to anyone before street date. And what that means is we're trying to build comic books in comic book shops. We like that physical, tangible, old school mixed with this kind of like new wave stuff that we're doing, process, that experience. We also know that there will be stores that don't sign up to our rules, but sub-distribute. So if, for instance, you're a store and Dino's a store, you sign up for Bad Idea Destination Program, you order, but you take his orders, even though he's not a store, you put them in your orders. So you order twice as much. We send you twice as much. No way for us to be able to tell that's happening. So we just say, okay, we can't stop you from doing that, but you can't give him the books until street date, which means unless you can physically walk over to him and give him that same day, he's in the books by mail at least one day later. So again, the Bad Idea fans and the Bad Idea stores have a little bit of exclusivity. So they can have it exclusively for that first day, first 2 days, 3 days, depending on shipping.
And that's an effort to get people into brick and mortar shops.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly right. Yeah. Because look, I do it too, man. I wake up on a Wednesday and I'm in bed and I go on Comixology and I check out what books are there. And sometimes I check them out, I buy them and I like them and I go, okay, cool, I'm going to go to the store, I'm going to buy this book again physically. And now I'll buy that book every month. It's not the best experience. It's not the intended experience. And we're, if we've done it before, we can be sticklers. It's kind of, we want the story to be experienced in the format as intended. So we're trying to force that a little bit. And
all
again,
right,
if people are not cool, that's okay. Doesn't hurt our feelings. I get it.
Next rule.
4. Bad Day comics must be displayed in the highest trafficked section of your store.
Oh boy.
So this is a big one. This basically,
you value what you do. We
value what we do. And we say to people, if you don't think that you will sell us well, if we're not the kind of product the kind of comics that your store would be excited about, that your customers would be excited about, it's actually better that we don't work together. We don't want to go into a store and have to deal with product you can't sell. And so we built this rule to say, here's you putting your money where your mouth is. We're going to give you, this is a $3.99, 48-page book with no ads. It's just content, right? It's got 2 stories in it. It's got a massive cover. So we're really going overboard. We want the stores to do the same. We want the readers to do the same. It's a ridiculous ask. No one's made these asks in comics before, but we're going to make them.
Pretty cool. Number 5.
Number 5, must prominently display each promotional material for a mandated time period. So one of the things that we did initially was we sent these ridiculous, actually this is inspired by this frame. We sent this ridiculous giant frame, big gold frame to the stores, and in it was a Bad Idea poster. And we'll switch that poster out. And we said to them, okay, you're going to have to put this up in your store for the next year. And if you're not cool with that, we told them before they signed up, that's the first thing we're doing. If you're not cool with that, totally get it. Because that wall space is, people sell. That's where you put your books. That's where you put your posters to sell. That's where you put, every inch of a store is valuable real estate. It's got to make money. We want you to do this. Again, if you're not the kind of store that can do well with our stuff, if you're not the kind of store that's worth it to you, it's better for both of us. At Valiant, There were so many stores that were part of ordering Valiant because they felt bad for us, so they liked us personally. And it's like, that's not helpful. Now I got to send you a frame. I got to send you. I don't have to, but I want to. A standee. I can't tell who's selling one, who's not. It's costing me money. It's costing you money to get that stuff, to put it up. It doesn't help you. It's better if we don't sell well for you. You're just a Marvel store, just a Marvel DC store, or whatever. Then don't worry about it. We'll still buy you a drink when we see you. Buy us when we see us. Talk about comics, but we don't have to do business together. And then Rule 6 is the most controversial.
Boom, boom, boom.
Rule 6 was one we added, the last one we added. Your order on your first issue of an arc is your minimum order on each subsequent issue of that arc. So order carefully. And so here's the thing that we did, is we did these rules and we started talking to retailers. We hadn't signed them up yet. And they were all like, this sounds great. We're going to order a ton. Okay. Well, we don't necessarily want you to order too many. We want you to order enough to sell to readers, but we don't want you having copies sitting on the shelf. And we don't want you to lose money on this thing. We want this to be a long-term thing. So we built this rule to say, not whatever you order in number 1, you're stuck with 2, 3, 4. What we'd like you to do is look at number 4 and say, okay, what do I think number 4 will be? Order that on number 1. And then if you sell out number 1, order a not first print. We're going to keep the not first prints open orders for as long as we can, at least a year. What that means is that we're not going to sell out of the not first print and say there's no copies available. Because there's no digital, because there's no trades, we're going to try and create a product that forever will be $3.99. And so I see people on eBay paying $20, $30 for the not first print. I would encourage people not to do that. If they want to spend money on the first print, it's their own thing. It's up to them. But the not first print, already the not first print is a higher print run than the first print. And my guess is it will be a significantly higher, many multiple higher when all is said and done. Think of it like a trade. Think of the not first prints like a trade.
Yeah. Now, help me just kind of understand this. There will be no trades.
No trades.
Wow.
The reason for no trades, again, is it all comes down to we want to be comic books in comic book shops. If we build trades, 2 things happen. I'm doing a kind of inside baseball publishing. I hope it's not too boring.
No,
2
it's
things
good.
happen.
Trust me, those
One,
are the kind of people that watch this show.
Great.
We have like the top 2,000 eBay sellers in comics that show up,
Amazing,
and then
really?
then like 1,000 retailers. Those are the people that watch our channel.
Okay, so 2 things happen. One, no matter what anyone does, us, the buyer, the retailer, Amazon is going to sell the vast majority of those trades. They just have the reach, they have the price discounts, they have everything.
No
and
doubt.
So that's not helpful to us. It's not helpful to the store. It might be helpful to people that don't have a store nearby, but there's nothing we can do to avoid. There's no rule we can have that we're not going to sell to Amazon. It'll get to Amazon some way. We can't fight that monster. So we thought, okay, no trades. The other thing that happens is unlike comic books where you print to order or you print like we did in ENIAC 1, far too few for your orders. There's no situation which you're printing many, many more than your order because usually you get your orders ahead of time. With trades, with collections, because of the book market, they're returnable, which comics are not, which means you can print 10,000 copies and get 10,000 back because they didn't sell. And then you're stuck with all that money that you've spent on the printing with nowhere to sell them, and they usually come damaged. You can't even resell them. And also, you only get small orders. So bookstores are used to making 1 copy orders, 2 copy orders, 5 copy orders. They're not used to making like monthly orders for ENIAC 1, and then they sell ENIAC 1, ENIAC 2. It's like, I need a couple more, I need a couple more, I need a couple more. What that does for the publisher is it means we've got to print a stack of them, put them in a warehouse. Now the next trade, stack of them in a warehouse, and we sell one every month. At Valiant, I found that I was looking at our balance sheet and we had mid 7 figures, just in 3 or 4 years, mid 7 figures tied up in inventory. And it was driving me crazy. That's money that I can use to get the artists' work, to get the writers' work, to build better books. It's just, we'd all like a bad deal, like to put that money to use to build, ridiculous 48-page no ad comics with crazy covers. So that's partly what we're trying to do.
Yeah,
which again means that trade waiters have to now do a little bit of extra work and read monthlies.
Yeah, what were the biggest lessons learned at Valiant that you've taken into Bad Idea for the future?
I mean, there's so many. Probably the biggest lesson is I think a lot of people that when they come into comics, the business, think about stores as comic book stores as this is how they are, right? I was told many times, your readers are not your customer. The stores are your customer, which sounds good until you think about it. It doesn't actually make a lot of sense. And then you think, okay, well, maybe the customers are our customer. The readers are our customer, not the stores. The truth is they're both your customer. You've got to convince the stores to stock your books and to get excited about your books. You've got to convince the reader to be excited about your book and come in, especially if they can pre-order. That's super helpful. But the big lesson to me was that they're not one ubiquitous thing. Unlike readers, who you can really classify into just pure readers, collector readers, trade readers, however you want to classify, the stores are just mom and pop shops. So if there's 2,000 North American comic book shops, there's 2,000 completely different points of view. And that's why I think what we've done is we've unwittingly started this conversation where this is new and different, and we're getting 2,000 points of view. And so Joe Field doesn't like rule number 3. He's still a bad idea store. He's not leaving. He's doubling down. His orders have come in larger on the next book. He sold out. He had a line. And then maybe the store over here doesn't like rule number 6. They've stayed as well. When we did the allocation, we announced it. We had 2 stores decide they didn't want to have anything to do with us anymore. Both those stores within 48 hours came back.
Oh boy.
Well, one of them has since been banned, but
that could happen. That could happen. Yeah. So one thing I know for sure is, Dinesh, you are unquestionably one of the most healthy people in a hobby that, for whatever reason, attracts some, how can I say this politely, eclectic personalities. And, I see you take sometimes very harsh criticism in the most beautiful way, where you're just thank you for your perspective, because, you're not one of those people who thinks there's one way to do it and it's Dinesh's way. And I really admire that. And it gives me a lot of faith in this company, because I can see how it's evolving. And, I'm really excited for the future of Bad Idea. Can you tell the people that are watching, some of the things that they can look forward to from you guys, whether it's creative or innovative or otherwise?
Sure. I think that's a lovely thing to say. Thank you for saying that, man. Everyone at Bad Idea just is happy and feels, humbled to be making comic books. I could see a version of myself in a parallel universe where I'm just scratching at the door, just hoping, give me a chance. I just want to work in the business. And to be here, I never want to forget that. And certainly everyone reminds me constantly that I work with, that we're all like to rib each other. But in terms of what's coming up, you'll see that journey, of we're making choices. They're not always going to be the right choice. Some of them are going to be legitimately bad ideas. Some bad ideas that work. Our next book is called Tankers. It is, to talk about things that shouldn't be a movie, it's absolutely ridiculous. The premise is an oil CEO obviously understands that we're running out of oil. He wants his grandkids to have a company to run, so he needs more oil. So instead of investing in renewable energy, he invests in time travel, invents time travel, sends a team of mech-armed soldiers escorting scientists back 65 million years with a ray gun. And the ray gun's job is to push the asteroid that destroyed the dinosaurs just a little bit off axis. So it goes once more around the solar system. 10 million more years it'll take, which means 10 million more years of dinosaurs, 10 million more years of oil. Return to the present day, we've got more oil in the ground. Of course, things don't go right. There's dinosaurs in the present day, and it's just this big testosterone-driven Saturday morning cartoon. Rob Venditti's writing that, and Juan Jose Rip is drawing it. It's 3 issues. They're oversized. So again, it's like Enix, 48 pages, no ads, plus a backup. And then we've got a book called Whalesville, which we've just updated. It's called now Whalesville X Rocks and Minerals, because we had a second story that we really liked. And so we thought, the smart thing to do would be sell them separately, make twice as much money. The dumb thing to do, the bad idea, would be to mash them together. And this is kind of our Pixar, Miyazaki, Studio Ghibli kind of storytelling, where Whalesville's about a kid on a whaling boat. His father's the captain. He gets knocked overboard, swallowed by a whale. Inside, he finds his town. built of all the things that were swallowed, all the creatures and debris that were swallowed, and he has to help them escape before his father hunts and kills the whale that ate his son. And they don't believe that they're in a whale. They think this is the whole world. And Rocks and Minerals is the story of, far future, humanity's gone, organic life is gone, only rocks exist. They've gained sentience. They walk around little arms and legs. Tony Millionaire draws it. And they bump into what they think is a green rock. It turns out to be a turtle. This turtle wants to get back to the ocean. So they have to go on this journey to take it to the ocean, which they've never been to. So we were coupling those two up. And then we've got The Lot, Marguerite Bennett horror story, which Renato Guedes is drawing, and the pages are frightening. They're actually so frightening, we're not sure how much we can actually show and what rating we got to put on this book. But the premise is, backstory is 1960s, big Stanley Kubrick-like director was making a horror film, wanted authenticity. He brought a cult in to do a real ritual that conjured something. People were killed, blood everywhere. The studio covered it up, locked away at the stage, The Lot. And then now modern day, a new CEO has come in and she's looking at the books thinking, why have I got this prime real estate in LA locked away? Opens it up, shoots movies there, of course, letting out the thing that's in there. It's a haunted house story. And then our last book that we've announced is Sleigh Bells, which is the ridiculous Santa Claus is Rambo story, drawn by David LaFuente and written by Zeb Wells.
And we can expect all of those this year.
Yeah, those are April is Tankers, May is Whalesville, and then July is The Lot and Sleigh Bells. We don't do more than 2 books a month. And each one of those will come with a bad idea B-side. We've got a lot of crazy B-sides. And they'll all be the same kind of quality, but hopefully not the same kind of stupidity when it comes to allocations. We'll see. So far, we're looking good.
Good stuff. Before we go, I want to encourage the people that joined us to stick around for Comic Book Women. Lucy from Bird City, Jen at Comic Aficionado on Instagram, and my friend Mama Comics. They were your ardent first supporters. They did a complete breakdown of Bad Idea as soon as the information was available. I've been waiting with bated breath, and I know Lucy's waiting on her copy from Golden Apple. So if Golden Apple's watching, send her book. If you can't get a book, you should reach out to places like Golden Apple that apparently will stick them in the mail, or get in your car and drive, because legitimately the hunt is half the fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Dinesh, thank you. It means the world to us. We really appreciate you and Bad Idea.
Thanks, man. I had a blast.